All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome once again to the Lead with Clarity and Purpose podcast. I am so excited to be here today with you. And before I go even further, I want to let you know that we have the first of our Leadership Impact Series podcast. And I have a wonderful person that I call my friend. She is phenomenal. She is no other person than Jill Anelli. And let me tell you a little bit about her before we dive in. So Jill Anelli has an MBA and she serves as the Senior Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer at Tanner Health, where she leads enterprise-wide human resources strategy, talent development, organizational culture, and change leadership, with a career spanning healthcare, education, and community impact. Jill brings deep expertise when it comes to employee engagement, performance management, and transformational HR operations. Before joining Tanner, Jill held progressive leadership roles with MUSC Health and Collier County Public Schools, strengthening workforce capability across complex systems. Jill holds an MBA from Liberty University and a bachelor's degree from Florida Gulf Coast University. She is also an ICF member, a PROSI certified change practitioner, and a committed executive coach. Beyond her professional work, Jill contributes her expertise as a board member for Fearless 271 Ministries supporting faith-based initiatives. So, Jill, you are welcome. So welcome. It is so good to have you. And before we even dive into our conversation today, I want to let you know that we at Dr. Hope Solutions appreciate you so much because we know that you're getting ready to share some knowledge and you're going to share your expertise within your own world, based on your own personal experiences of life, how you've gone through your own personal experiences, even with professional experience. I know that someone out there, a leader out there, a senior leader out there, is definitely going to have a lot of nuggets from what we're going to be talking about today. So I encourage you, go grab your cup of coffee if you haven't had it yet, grab your bottle of water, have a seat, and just get ready to enjoy this wonderful conversation that Jill and I are going to have. All right, Jill, welcome once again.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I appreciate you calling me a friend and colleague because it was such a pleasure to meet you a couple of years ago since coming to Columbia, or not actually Columbia, sorry, Carrollton, Georgia. And so it was just so amazing to meet other professional women in the coaching space and getting connected in that role. So thank you for having me on your podcast today. It's been such an honor for me.
So good to have you. And you are the first of our leadership series.
Amazing. How would I know that? That is so great. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So, Jill, you've had a tremendous amount of experience. You are a senior leader, and I would love for you to share your leadership journey. Many leaders grow into leadership and they develop their leadership philosophy over time. What experiences have shaped how you lead today?
Well, thank you for asking that because when it comes to people believing, there's different schools of thought on is a leader born or is a leader made?
Mm,
And I believe that leaders are made. We do have intrinsic qualities about each of us that are strengths, but there wouldn't be so many leadership books or leadership podcasts or leadership growth and development opportunities if we didn't believe that leaders could be grown. So the idea for me, yes, I believe I have some innate leadership qualities, like grit and tenacious and, creative and all the things people talk about, being comfortable with public speaking. But my journey began as a young person in a faith-filled home. So it really started in my spiritual journey and just knowing who I am. And that built my confidence as a person navigating my own career, because there's challenges that we all run into, whether you get laid off or there's something, a big change in the company you work for. And I believe our faith gets tested many times before our leadership qualities get tested. And so spiritually, as I began to build my brand of, who do I want others to see me as? It is lonely at the top, but when we build a brand that people can connect with, that is something that I began working on. And so I reference 1 Corinthians 13:1, and it's kind of the space, the definition of love, because I know there is a strong connection in leadership between loving people and being loved, right? And a lot of people want to or think that being feared in leadership is makes you great or makes people respect you. But often I have found that when I stay centered and present in a love space, meaning, am I being kind? Am I being inclusive? Am I looking to serve myself or am I looking to serve others? Even patience, our patience can get tested through whether it's mentoring others or leading through a difficult change. So I always have to check myself first. And so my spirituality is one of those leadership philosophies. But when I worked in Columbia at MUSC, I had the opportunity to take a leadership development series. And working for organizations that value development became very important to me. And I know that sometimes we work for companies that we love, but they don't always have budgets or opportunities set aside. So I just want to encourage those of you listening today that if your company doesn't really speak about leadership development, it doesn't mean it's not important. It means that you just have to be more intentional to seek it out on your own. But going back to MUSC, I had the opportunity to take a leadership development series, and there I was exposed to the difference between sponsorship, mentorship, and leadership
Mm,
coaching. And the leadership coaching piece was so important to me because I had never been in a leadership coaching space. No one had ever coached me professionally as a leader. And so knowing that a sponsor can help open doors. And so some leaders you build into your network and they allow you the opportunity to get a promotion or be exposed to a new project to learn something on the job. In mentorship, that's where you would want someone to give you sort of a play by play in your new position or in a new task to sort of help you smooth out the rough edges of understanding. But then that leadership piece for coaching is really to sit with a thought partner. And that's why, and where you and I, Dr. Hope, connected around because you do leadership coaching and you've even presented and helped our leaders at Tanner Health. So, that entire process of being exposed to a leadership development series at MUSC was a big way that I learned. Now, I've got a couple other options that I want to throw out to your listeners.
sure.
Change management techniques.
Mhm.
It was so hilarious to me that I had spent 20 years, maybe 15 years in leadership and had never taken a specific change management technique training course.
Mhm.
And when I took the training course through ProSci, they use the ADKAR model, and it was so enlightening to me that we should be using similar terminologies at work as we process change. We are in a change management plan every day, whether we call it that or not. And so it's become sort of my new project in my mind at work in leadership to utilize change management processes, techniques, and conversations so that we can all get on the same page with terminology. And then, of course, reading. So I love to read. I'm a lifelong learner. And we walk through things like Jim Collins' Good to Great. That is, widely used and supported in the Tanner Health system. Marcus Buckingham's Love and Work. Of course, Marcus Buckingham is a very engaging thought leader. And then Patrick Lencioni with the 5 dysfunctions of a team and the working
Mm.
genius. So just being open to taking in the new knowledge and practicing it and testing it. Um, I don't know if that opens up any doors for further conversation, but that's kind of how I have kind of taken my leadership growth journey.
Wow, Jill, thank you so much. You've gone in different angles with that, and I love it. And there's some things you were saying, and there's some thoughts were waking up within me. And I would ask you this: what would you say to that senior leader, whether they're a VP or a CEO or a president, who is struggling even with change management?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when I went through the training, it put it into a framework that helped me understand how do I need to think through a change. Because sometimes we get overwhelmed with wanting the final product to be implemented, done. We're just so task oriented in the space of, I have the strategy, I want everyone to be on the same page as me, but then we have to realize there's a timeline in everything. And that
Mhm.
ADKAR timeline really put it in perspective for me. And so many of your listeners may know about ADKAR. Understanding the awareness. Does everyone on your team, are they aware that this change is necessary? The D, um, how do we need to feel the decision process and the desire to change? So many of us believe that we want to change, but we don't have the desire to change. And then the knowledge. What knowledge do we need to pass through the organization? Do we need to provide training? Do we need to set up lunch and learns? Do just what steps of that process? And then just using the ADKAR space is what I would tell any senior leader is what we all need to get on the same page with. And then there's certain roles that we play, whether we're an executive sponsor, are we on the communications team? Do we need a project manager? And being able to articulate what everybody's role in the changes is such an important understanding. And then rolling out timelines and when will people have the ability to do the change. So that's just kind of where my head goes when you talk about speaking to senior leaders.
Absolutely. That's really good. And I really like what you said regarding the model. Really having a model to utilize, really, it takes away that fear of what do
Mhm.
I do or how
Right.
do I do this? But you have a model that has been used time and time again,
Mhm.
and it's effective because the desire is there, but taking the action is the next thing if you really want to achieve what you're looking for. So, Jill, there's a lot of noise in the world today. And in the midst of that noise comes a lot of change. Things change day to day. Teams are struggling to keep up. What does leadership clarity look like for you in practice in the
Yeah.
midst of the times we're in today?
Yeah, so leadership clarity is so interesting because I guess it depends on the person you're working with or the leader you're talking to. But in my experience, anchoring everything we do to mission is where it's at. If employees start to wonder, does my job really make a difference? There's so many feelings that people have when they come to work that they're either in the wrong position, that they don't have the skill they need to do the role, that they um, don't maybe agree with the change that's coming up. So leaders are tasked with understanding, do all my people, my employees, my teams, first of all, have the understanding to do the job they're in? Do they also have the materials, the resources? When they go to the supply cabinet, do they have what they need? When they log into the computer, do they have the systems? Do they have access to information? So to me, the person that we lead needs to be equipped to do their job. So that is part of my leadership clarity, understanding the gaps that my team have, that resources, what can I help remove barriers for them, and then turning the strategy that I may have into language that people understand. We use data in our world. So I obviously run reports, we send out employee engagement surveys, but instead of just leaving that information on the shelf, how do I mine that data? How do I turn it into a narrative or a story that the people behind the work process understand why we're doing X process to change an outcome that's related to psychological safety, that I want to work for Tanner for the next 3 to 5 years, that I feel like I have somebody who cares about my career development. There's data sets behind that information at organizations. And so, me being able to turn that story into meaningful action items really helps me lead with purpose. Um, and then I have to listen. I am a talker. I do love good conversation. And I'm sure even here you're like, okay, Jill, pause so I can talk. But the truth is, listening intentionally for me has been a practice for me, because when you're in recruitment, you have to listen for certain answers to questions. When you're interviewing, when you're doing investigations, you have to listen differently. But in coaching and in leadership, there's another even deeper way of listening, like
Mhm.
listening intentionally and with purpose to make sure I'm actually hearing what the person's trying to tell me. So that all helps me with my leadership clarity. Over communication is so key. We have to over communicate what we're trying to achieve, why we're trying to achieve it, who it's intended to impact, all those things, because there's a psychology or a survey that was done that said people need to hear it 7 times. But in a time where we have 4 different generations in the workplace, I have to remember all the different ways that that person is getting their information. Am I tweeting it? Is it on YouTube? Is it through socials? Am I doing emails? Is it a voicemail? Am I setting up face to face? So, to me, in order to lead with clarity, I have to know who's my audience. Now it's very complex. I've got 4 generations. When do I see them? How will they receive the message? So, it does get more complex in that space.
I like the way you put that. It's really about the leader getting to know its people.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know your people, then you're going to lack clarity in what's really happening, the challenges they're facing, the struggles that they're experiencing, and probably not sharing, not having that psychological safety to
Mhm.
share how they're feeling, what their thoughts are regarding the change that they're getting to experience. So that's really good. So, how do you lead when there's a lot of pressure,
Mhm.
even with clarity?
Mhm. So I have to be intentional to set goals that, like thinking through a strategy. We at Tanner Health, and like many organizations, you do fiscal year goal sets. And we want to be intentional that however we cascade, our pillars or the structures that make the organization successful, that's really what drives our plan at the personal, individual, executive level, but also at a team level, a department goal level. And so I have to be intentional when I look at the goals we're creating before the fiscal year starts.
Mhm.
Because if I try to engage in that process after it starts, we're already behind. And so many things are driven by the decisions we make when we set our goals early. So I always say plan the work, work the plan, because if the plan needs to change, things do come at us sideways, legislation changes, new
Mhm.
ideas are rolled out. And so now we've got to keep our eye on the ball. And so we try to come up with a game strategy. But once you're in the game, things can happen and you've got to be ready to pivot. I know people, are laughing at industry key terms, but it's like, are we ready to pivot? Do we need to adjust our plan and refocus? Um, and so for me, when you've got the constant pressure of these competing priorities, being able to recenter your team back on these are the major initiatives we need to focus on this year. If you're getting sideways, other departments asking for things because people also have those competing ideas. Like we all as a system want to get things done, but how do you protect your team, your time, your resources to achieve what you have set out to do? So I say speak up. If you feel like things are piling up on you and you want to be a yes person, or you want to have a side project or a stretch goal or do something that you think feels right in the moment, but then a month down the road, it feels very overwhelming, then raise your hand, talk to someone about it and say, look, I felt like I was on target, but things are spiraling for me and I need sort of to find my new, like put my feet on the ground, find a settling space. And so, one, that goes back to coaching. Know who your coaches are, know where your safe places are to raise those hands, and be able to articulate what do you need? Do you just need a day off to get your head right? To, disconnect for a minute? Because sometimes we just get too spun up in our emotions and the feelings of stress, and maybe we're losing sleep. Or is it that I just should have the courage to say, I really want to help you on this project. I just don't have time right now. So come back and check with me again
Yeah.
because it does align with me, but my timing is off. So I feel like that's how we need to refocus the constant pressures and demands of competing priorities.
So I'm going to go back to something you referenced earlier, which is coaching.
Yeah.
We're gonna spend a few minutes on that.
Okay.
So when it comes to coaching, some people don't know what coaching is.
Hmm.
But we're definitely in a different time, a different season. If you could say in a few words, how valuable is coaching for leaders, regardless of what level they're at?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I started the leadership coaching program at Tanner about 2 years ago, um, they didn't know what they didn't know about the coaching space. And so some were fearful that maybe it wouldn't be confidential, that one-on-one time they spent with me, that I would not be able to separate my HR hat as the chief HR officer from a confidential coach space.
Mhm.
Or what do I even talk about with my coach when I go in? Do they want to hear about my personal life? Are they trying to um, sort out EAP counseling questions? There was just, because they had not experienced it, there was just a lot of fear around it. So being in a professional coaching space, especially for leaders, for me as the coach, I like to know who my best client is. Um, so every coach has who they prefer in their client space. So some coaches, for example, like the emerging leaders, the ones that have high potential, people who are raising up in the ranks, as you would say. And so maybe they've been a supervisor or they're in a middle management role. And so some coaches like that opportunity to help guide and structure their growing space. I have found that I like more of the executive space, the leaders who have been in leadership for many years,
Mhm.
where their problems feel very complex. And there's been some talk lately that executive leaders, senior leaders are starting to feel very overwhelmed because the types of problems that they're facing are very advanced. And
Mhm.
someone made a comment that said, well, it makes sense because you have so many layers of management below your title that handle the general day-to-day functions, challenges, things that are happening, and they solve all the easy things. So by the time it gets to you in that executive space, it is complex. It should be complex. And so having a coach at the executive level gives them an opportunity to talk through, why does this problem feel so complex to me? Do I have a learning gap? Has the regulations and laws changed and I don't feel as competent or capable in answering that question? We feel like AI, we're in the new Wild West where it's like things are coming at us that maybe haven't been discussed or challenged or worked through. And so it's like, man, it's been a minute since I've had a question that I didn't feel comfortable answering. And then there's always the opportunity of saying, like, am I in the right seat? Do I still love my job? Do I have the passion to do this work? And so that coach just gives you the freedom and the space to say it. Say what's on your mind, say what's in your heart. And not that the coach has the answer for you, generally, they don't. They just pose the right question at the right time to bring it out of your mouth to say sometimes what's hard to say.
That's good. I like the way you put that. And you heard Jill. I mean, there's nothing like coaching. It is transformational. There is no judgment when it comes to coaching. It's really for your freedom at the end of
Mhm.
the day. It sets you free and it helps you lead your team even better. There's no shame in it. It makes you a better leader. So, Jill, as we're getting close to wrapping up, looking back on your leadership journey, what is one moment or experience that has significantly shaped the leader you are today?
Okay, looking back, probably, I got my bachelor's degree right out of high school. So I always knew I wanted to go to college and I wanted to be in business. So I got a degree in business. So then I ended up working my first job in HR. And I knew because I love education. I love to read. I love to do all the things that's required in the education space. I felt like I would go back to get a master's degree of some kind, but I just didn't know how, when, and in what actual degree space I wanted to do it. So, after about 15 years into the practice of HR, it became very clear to me that human resources was the profession I loved. It gave me so many different spaces to work in, different industries, but also different abilities. And, whether it was investigations or recruitment or benefits or comp, it just gave me so much freedom. But when I decided that was the big key. I decided that a master's in business was going to be my next space. That was really more transformational for me in leadership because it opened up doors that my bachelor's degree did not. And so I always challenge young people to say, your education, whether it be a high school diploma, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's, a doctorate, whatever, needs to line up with your experience. If one outweighs the other, you're generally not in your sweet spot. So if you rush through school very early, you have a lot of education, but you may not have the counterpart of experience in the field, on the job, working with the team. And so for me, I felt very blessed to have gotten my bachelor's, worked a plenty enough experience in the field, and then capped it off with my master's for me to then open doors of VP level roles, senior vice president roles, which then further opened up doors for me to walk into the coaching space or, we're developing an AI software at this point. And so it's just given me the creativity and the flexibility that maybe my degree alone would have limited me in doing.
That is so awesome. And thank you for sharing that. So, last words.
Okay.
What are those last words you would say to maybe that senior leader who is watching this today or listening to this podcast? Words of encouragement to where they are at this season.
Well, I love to have fun. I love to have fun at work. I love to have fun at home. I feel like levity is so important. People can see you as a leader and think you should be so serious and, you know, so so harsh sometimes because the job is hard or the business is serious. But the truth is, people want you to be relatable. They want to know that if you make a mistake, it's okay. You're going to recover from it. Talk about it when you fail. Don't be afraid to fail. That's where inventions come from, and our genius flows out. And also, don't be afraid to laugh. It's so good when we can laugh with each other, with colleagues, not in a punitive, disrespectful way, but in a lighthearted, joyful way where we find community in the laughter and the things that bring us, closer together as a team versus tearing us down.
Absolutely. That is so good. You heard Jill. She said it so well. The importance of levity, being having fun in what you're doing. And I would add that life is too short. Life
Yeah.
is too short not to have fun. So, Jill, thank you so much for being the first of
Welcome.
our Leadership Impact series. So, so good to have you today on this podcast. And yes, if this resonates with you, share with a friend, subscribe to this channel. That way you get to hear or know what's popping in because we're going to be having different guests coming in, sharing their thoughts, their expertise to help everyone grow. Once again, continue to lead with clarity and lead with purpose. Take care.